Hello and welcome to Fellowship of Geeks. I'm Jim,
I'm Diane.
and today we're going to bring you more excitement from GenCon.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe below.
So we have a bunch of haul stuff we're going to show you there. We got the little GenCon program book out that we're a hot commodity as always on our other screen. Talk about some of our general impressions, people we saw, things we did, and a lot of the things we picked up along the way. And since a picture is worth 1,000 words, we have it all set up to show some of the cool stuff we picked up. So first of all, attendance.
Attendance! Oh my gosh, this is, I was going to say at least the second year. I remember last year they sold out attendance this year. The announced numbers are 72,000 people came through GenCon this year.
And that's a huge gate, and those numbers, going back to when Origins first started out and the Great War was going on between TSR and
What they say, 1,500?
SSI. Yeah, they were having 1,500. Like there were more people in the Pazio ballroom than that probably
Right.
a couple times. So it was just it was incredible, and that was up from what was last year's gate, 68-ish. I think they said. And they also sold out all their vendor spots. And since it's Catter Day, there's Mo coming to visit us. The joys of cats. We missed International Cat Day yesterday, buddy. Move along. You had your chance. So that's a huge number of people, and I think, I don't know if I ever felt that it was that crowded. How about you?
I did.
Okay.
And I am not one to typically feel overwhelmed or overcrowded. I enjoy that. I do very well. I, knock on wood, don't suffer any anxiety. And Thursday, we weren't 30 minutes into the dealer hall, and I was like, I'm out. This is so crowded, I can't handle it. And all I kept thinking was, it's 30 minutes into day one.
And historically, there's that I want hardcore crush, the running of the geeks on Thursday. But once you get through that initial 15 minutes, I've always felt like the dealer hall spreads out being as just ginormous as it truly is. Everybody spreads out. They go to whatever the couple hot things are. Yeah, there's a line at a booth here or there. Some people glommed around something if they have a giveaway or they have whatever the hot property was. And Thursday, certainly in the dealer hall, had a Saturday feel, because I know we scheduled ourselves a lot of things outside the dealer hall just to stay out of the crush, because last year we were down by the Kingdom Death booth in the corner on Saturday, and we didn't move 15 feet for 30 minutes. It was just wall-to-wall people, and it's a choke coming in because you've got the entrance from the main hall, you've got the entrance from the board game and miniature hall that all kind of confluences there today, and there's not a good back hall, and it gets crowded
and
there.
And to be honest, those aisles are more narrow than they are. Those higher number aisles are much more narrow than they are in the lower number area.
But when we were in there on Saturday, I never felt it was crazy on Saturday. We avoided some of the super high traffic areas, or the choke points, but it was never wall-to-wall people where you were shoulder to shoulder for more than the crossing of the aisles or something, or maybe on the corner. It just, that Saturday crush was never awful.
Sunday felt very full. Maybe not crush worthy. It felt very full. Sunday is definitely more family day. We've had a number of years that we went on Sunday with our little guy when he was little as family day. And it definitely had that feel. I saw a lot more families. I saw a lot more little kids in there, which just kind of adds to the crowd some. Again, mostly felt it at Crossroads. Those intersections definitely were busier. I definitely used some of our advice, which was, you don't have to hold hands. You don't have to hang on to each other. I'm going to see you as we...
we examined all the places to spend our money.
But as we cross through the crossway there, I'm going to meet you like in the next booth on the other side. It's going to be okay as we both weave and bob separately. The couple I passed were she had a hold of his shirt in the back trying to stay with him. And I'm like,
again, don't forget our survival guide. A little grace. Maybe she had social anxiety.
That's true.
Maybe the crowds like freaked him out, and so he liked having a hold of her because he was worried. So like I tried to have grace for that. But the ones that are happily strolling down the aisle, separated, holding hands like they're walking through a park, I'm like, this is just not going to work here. I'm like, oh, we're playing Red Rover? Let's go. No. So yeah, there was definitely that Thursday crush.
Thursday had the claustrophobic, 6 people wide. Yes,
and I think the vendors we talked to and that we have a relationship with, our friends with, said Thursday, especially talking to them later in the day Saturday and early on the day Sunday, Thursday was their best not only traffic day but sales day, which again I always felt like Thursday was your hardcore day. The people that were just those super fans or that really wanted that one hot product and were in there. And like the rest of the time, that it just the crowds bled off until Saturday when everybody that could come on Saturday. But Thursday was just crazy. So I mean, I think they said sales were good, and like sales kind of fell off for a bunch of them on Friday. Which again was surprising
is somewhat typical.
Yeah.
Somewhat Friday, Saturday is often a lower day in sales than Thursday or Sunday are. But it didn't quite feel from the people we talked to that Sunday quite picked up either. Thursday remained their busiest day.
Yeah. And the other place where I didn't feel the crush was Saturday morning. In between our talks, I walked around Lucas Oil. And while they had more of the stadium pushed back and had more floor space, especially in that back aisle, they had a bunch of tables there. There was nobody there. And I'm like, it's Saturday morning. Where is everybody? And it was nice they had some additional spaces where you could come down and play a game. And I meant to shoot video and I got distracted. There was a little one pushing the stroller down one of the main aisles. And I'm like, oh, I remember when my guy was at, and Dad was back in the distance, watching him like a hawk, but giving him some space to get some of the energy out. And Mom and the others had gone to play a game, and I was like, you're doing great. This is what they need. Like, props to you. I'm like, my now 16-year-old is off playing games and doing his own thing, and don't blink or that's going to happen to you. But I totally got distracted, and like the wave of nostalgia. But I was looking around, I'm like, where is everybody? So that I thought that was interesting. I know when I crossed from the stadium to the JW from one talk to the other that were back to back. Great planning. That was a little bit of a hike, and I made it only 3 minutes late. The hallway shoot from the ICC leading down to where the block party was, and then going down under the street there to get in the stadium. It was packed on Saturday. So that, and even the hall, even up to the dealer hall, was pretty packed. But then once I got through there, the concourse in between the ballrooms and the dealer hall wasn't crazy, and it was 11 o'clock-ish or so. So just the crowds felt, I don't know, different for having that many people there.
And so one of the things I noticed this year is the breadth of space GenCon now takes. So it's the Indiana Convention Center, the ICC, it's Lucas Oil Stadium, it's the JW. There are games and seminars in the Hyatt and the Westin,
the Hilton, the Omni, the
Union,
straight up Marriott Union Station, and probably a few other places were missing as well.
So it has spread so far out, which is wonderful. Kudos to GenCon to be so large, to take up so much of a footprint in Indianapolis. But you just talked about trying to get from Lucas Oil Stadium over to the JW. There's a logistics issue that begins to come up.
I mean, I bailed the one talk we were in to get to the other one on time because I really wanted to see that one, and that was the one that was sold out as well. And it was a little bit of a hike, and I was like, oh, I'm hustling.
And you guys left early to get the little guy to a game
to get out to the Hilton
that was farther away as well. And so I don't know, does this bode well for GenCon? Does this work well?
I mean, I don't think they've outgrown Indianapolis yet, especially with that new hotel coming. That was all the construction where the Goodwill Games pavilion and all that were heading toward the Omni and Union Center. So, and I mean, it's a monster. I think it's going to be bigger than the JW, at least in height. It was a big building. 2027, not going to be ready for next year, so that's disappointing. I think they've done a good job cutting the Saturday only badges off early and calling that sold out because of how thick that crush was. But I don't know. I like it being spread out, except for when I'm trying to go from one end to the other. When I ran games years ago, all our games were out in Union Station, and we were up on the second floor and in the turret, and it was so removed from the convention proper, and that was before the JW was even there, and before they'd finished redoing the stadium, and it was still small for GenCon in Indy at least. That was a hike because I'm like, are my players ever going to find me? And they did. I mean, they're smart people, but it was like, I'm like, this is a hike, and I think our group, I mean, we had a smaller presence than we do at Origins. I think it affected our numbers a little bit because people, and as the con gets later, again, Gen Con I've always said is much more of a party spend money con. Origins is more of a come and hardcore like game con, and I stand by that to this day. People are like, oh, I'm hungover, or I stayed up too late having fun with my friends,
that
and
does
and
happen
don't
a
show
lot.
up. And so I think even some of the little guys' games, like they noticed, well, on paper they were sold out, but they had some holes, and I don't know if it was the hike to the Hilton. Again, not arduous, and with the amazing weather we had this year, I'm like, I want to go outside and have some fresh air. It's not oppressive like it usually is in the Midwest in August. So that was really really good. But I think that hit it some too. So it was interesting, and I never felt that crush, and I think it's something that you and I have talked about with so many of the bigger gaming companies, especially board games for the most part. Paisio is a whole different one. I mean, they have a huge ballroom. They had another little separate ballroom I didn't even realize they had. I was like, oh, look, there's another Paisio room. So, I mean, they're a big role play, and they do a ton of organized play, so I understand that. But some of the other board game ones that we'd play, and I think, and I didn't even see them on this year's map, we used to play a bunch of games with ILO, and I think they may have been picked up by somebody else. They used to have a big footprint in the dealer hall, and the dealer hall space is so expensive that I guess having a ballroom is a more cost-effective option. And if you're just there to play whatever that hot game is, where you love everything that Asmodee or Ravensburger or Mayfair, whatever do, then you're going to go and spend a big chunk of your time just in that ballroom and not see everything. And I think people that are much more generalists, certainly our interests are, they're missing out getting, at least getting exposure to a more general audience. And if they're doing good with their hardcore audience, then great, they know their business better than I do.
Is some of that a solution maybe to the crush of the dealer hall? Like, is there something in the dealer hall that you would say, yes, this appropriately should be moved to a ballroom, or this appropriately should be moved to Lucas Oil? They would have more space. Personally, some of those booths that were 3 aisles wide,
Asmodee,
I'm like, maybe, and then they were 2 sections deep.
I think they had 3 different footprint pictures on the map. And they had a bunch of games, and they had a huge section of the board game mini hall as well for all their different tournaments and things. And I mean, they have a ton of games, not quite the all-play amount, but they're a little more complex as well.
And they had a lot of tables to demo play within the dealer hall in their big footprint. I don't want to discredit that because not everyone did. That was a really great use of their space. But is their draw and is their size maybe appropriate to look at moving to Lucas Oil? Would it draw other people to go see what else is in Lucas Oil and open up some elbow room in the dealer hall?
And that's a great question. I mean, I don't know what floor space in Lucas Oil costs. You're not getting the same traffic because, again, it's somewhat out there. I understand it for the JW because they don't have, I mean, they certainly don't have, nobody has the space that Lucas Oil has for that footprint. But for like role-playing games and seminars, the JW is a great venue for that. Again, it's way separated, but if you're going to go, play role-playing game of your choice or that seminar, as long as your previous one isn't in the stadium, meeting rooms, then that's not bad, and you're gonna make that hike. But like, oh, let's go see what company X has in Lucas Oil, may not be as willing to, hey, let's go see what they have, unless they have that hot property. And then are they missing out because people are like, oh, it's too far, I don't want to go.
And I think I understand that that's the struggle. I wouldn't want to move Artist Alley. I wouldn't want to move the independent game.
Right. The Entrepreneurs Alley.
The Entrepreneurs Alley. I don't want to move them to Lucas Oil because I think people would skip it. They wouldn't go as far. That's why I'm wondering if there's an advantage in taking a larger name and moving them over there.
It has that draw.
I don't know.
GenCon, if you're looking for somebody to plan it, don't call us. We don't want that
Quickly, though, GenCon, even their dealer hall, I think is going to start to outgrow the space they have set aside. Now, the easy solution is there is a section of the mini hall and the open gameplay that they can easily move aisles into, and that divides up easily and quickly to be able to do that.
And we saw Ravensburger was the one, they were in there selling on Sunday before the main dealer hall was open. They started selling at 9 o'clock before the big exhibit hall opened, and they didn't have lines, but they were steadily selling product and moving things through. So and a number of companies have done that for years, having that footprint there. So yeah, I don't know, it's scary to think how quickly, like, we filled that space in the new convention center, and thinking where the old one was in the dealer mini hall before, it was still the RCA dome and wasn't even used. It is crazy how quickly that has happened. And I think it bodes well for the hobby and like gaming hobby in general. Was very interesting. So, but
I think it says incredible things about the gaming industry. Looking if we sold out at 72,000 this year, I know there's been interviews and discussion. They'd love to make it to 80,000. Did you feel there was space that you could have rubbed elbows with an additional 8,000 people this year?
Can you imagine the extra long lines at Island Noodles?
Oh, they would need a second tent.
They would need a second truck.
You were talking the other day about when we went to get coffee in the morning and breakfast, and Island Noodles wasn't open.
Right.
They were not open, but there were people there. They were prepping. They were cutting vegetables. They were heating up their woks. They were ready to go first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And again, throw a little extra eggs in with your noodles there, and you can have your breakfast bucket of noodles, but no vegetables, not for the little guy at least. So okay, talking about some of the hot properties that we engaged with, the Battle of Hoth was one we mentioned that certainly I was interested in.
So I'm going to back you up a little bit there because it's Hoth related.
Yes, it was downright chilly in some places in the dealer hall, which was a nice change.
Seemed to me to be the only thing people were really lining up early to go get.
So that was my experience. So Thursday we were in the dealer hall. We were at the Asmodee booth. It's Days of Wonder who puts it out, but they're an Asmodee imprint. We were there 10 quarter after, 10, 15, and they had a line, and I asked the guy in the line, I'm like, hey, do you still have Battle of Hoth? Because I'm like, if I missed out, I'll come back tomorrow. And he's like, oh yeah, get in line, we're good. And we wrapped all the way around to get into the cattle chute. And they're like, if you're here for Battle of Hoth, we don't have Battle of Hoth today. And I'm like, so Facebook really lied to us on your posting. And then, so I went bright and early Friday morning, earlier than I would normally go. And I think I was the third person in line in the queue to get in the dealer hall because I wanted to pick up Battle of Hoth. And the two guys that were waiting there when I got there, and the one guy's buddy, they were all there for it. And we got talking, and they're like, yeah, we were there early Thursday, and they said they didn't have it. And then there were some, and I'm going to call them unsubstantiated rumors, because I didn't talk to anybody that said, yes, I plunked my money down and went and bought it. They did have the pre-orders that were available, but we heard from a bunch of people, oh yeah, midday they started selling it. And I was like, okay, didn't check back, got busy. There was a million other things to do. And I think by the time the running of the geeks happened on Friday, once we got in, there were at least a dozen people toward the front of that queue. They're like, hey, what are you here so early waiting for? And by and large, it was all Battle of Hoth. So, and I think I was the 10th one in the cattle chute when I got
Wow.
up, and they had 3 pretty good sized stacks of it, and we're going. And I think they were letting people buy 2. I'm glad I didn't ask because I would have bought 2 because I wanted the light side and the dark side special thing. But I'm like, oh, I'm good with just the dark side. I don't need 2 copies of a game that couldn't really be combined like that. Um, but as far as hot properties and new releases, in the realm of things I look at and I'm interested in, that was the hottest one, and was like, oh, I got it on Friday. I'm like, I'm glad I didn't, try to delay or wait any further.
Right.
And looking forward to doing an unboxing of that and getting it out and playing it. I know the little guy's chomping at the bit. He's like, why haven't we done this yet? I'm like, well, we're busy and have jobs and stuff.
But I did. Was it last year Lorcana came out?
Lorcana came out last year, and it was nuts.
Stupid lines.
It was nuts.
Stupid lines wrapped all the way around, stanchioned off.
Mm-hmm.
And they were not the only property. In years, there's typically one like that.
Right.
It was a little unusual for me to go and not recognize and not see people in line for something like that.
Or everybody you see has it tucked under their arm or in
Right.
their big crazy bag. And I saw plenty of big crazy bags that were full of good stuff.
Right.
But that really
But
super
it was a lot
hot
more
property.
variety.
There was a lot more variety. And speaking of that, talking to vendors, some of the other games we looked for were sold out early.
Sold out. Like before Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Not just games, but to be honest, I went to go see Margaret Weiss and to buy her new book.
Mm-hmm.
And she had posted on social media that Friday she'd sold half her books already. By Saturday, she sold out of all the books. And I'd already bought all the new books last year that she had. So kudos to her. I did get by the booth on Sunday. She was there.
It was lonely and a little sad. I mean, they have a good sized booth.
Tables.
And they had some like really old backstock, but nothing new. And I'm like, while you want to sell out as a vendor, you don't want to take the stuff home with you. Selling out that early is kind of a scary property when you don't have a lot of other things to do. A lot of other gaming companies have other games. Oh, well, if you were kind of looking for this, we have this other cool game, or like we have other things, you can plunk your hard-earned dollars down for. But that one was certainly hard. But I feel like
25th Century games, we talked about several of them on our preview. I was really looking forward to Red Letter, Yellow Letter. I don't think we made our way to them until closer to Sunday.
It was Sunday.
They said by Friday they'd sold out of Red Letter, Yellow Letter, and they were sold out of 3 other games by the time we got there.
And again, it's nice to sell out. I mean, Battlehawk did sell out on Sunday. Their Sunday allotment sold out. But I'm like, really, I feel like you're missing out on sales. And again, it's I mean, good luck figuring that out. You probably know your business better than I do, and ever will. But I feel like as a vendor, you're all those people that are coming to pick your thing up. It's not like they're coming like, hey, do you still have your free pack of cards or free whatever?
Right.
On Saturday or Sunday? Nope, sorry, we gave all those away. Do you want to buy something? No, I'm just here for my coupon book thing. But to have people coming up and wanting to buy it or at least see it to demo it.
Yes.
And some of them offered pre-orders. We pre-ordered some stuff from Equilibrium. They
Also
often
sold
don't
out.
bring a ton of stuff, but they were pretty well sold down to nothing. And that's fairly typical for them because they don't carry a lot of stock and carry a lot around with them. And they pre-ordered, and we got the show discount. I know there were a couple other companies. I know Battlefone was doing the show discount.
I thought
for
that
stuff
was
they didn't
was a
have.
great pivot for a number of vendors to offer the show discount, offer free shipping. A lot of them offered free shipping if you ordered it at the show there as well. And those are great pivots because you think about, oh, well, I'm taking it home with me. I don't want to have to pay shipping for it. So that was a great offer. Again, kudos to them.
But there were some that that wasn't even like, oh, can we pre-order it? Oh, we don't know when we're going to have more stock.
I don't know.
Do you have more coming? Yeah. And so, because we heard.
Felt that way. Army Painter felt that way.
A little bit.
Again, we're offering
they're a smaller
show
company
discount.
from Belgium, and
they were offering some shipping, but literally told us the stock is on a boat right now.
Yep.
We're just waiting for it to get here.
And we heard similar stories, and I think we saw a lot of companies that they brought some. I know there was the Gundam game that always had a line at their booth, and they didn't have any, and like there were some like, oh, can we demo it? Sure, go over to the hall. And there were a couple different ones that said that just didn't have any product, and I was like, are you taking pre-orders? Like, I get it if you're promoting your Kickstarter.
Sure.
Saw some of that, and that's been going on for years, especially over in Entrepreneur Alley. They have a booth, or they might have test copy or whatever that they're showing you to drum up interest in their coming Kickstarter or their ongoing Kickstarter.
Or you have a paper fan. I love a cardboard paper fan, especially at an event like this, because it's easy to tuck in my bag. It's easy to pull back out. It doesn't take a lot of extra space or noise. I have one of those neck fans that I always feel like takes a lot of space when I have it. When we were in seminars, it makes too much noise to be heard over that. So it's nice to have just one of those old-fashioned, I'm going to call it old-fashioned church fan. Like it's a hearty popsicle stick and a cardboard. But we were walking through, and I was talking about being warm and looking for one of those fans, and the woman in front of us is like, here, and hands me this fan, and it's an ad for a game. I was like, oh, fantastic. What a neat idea. I never, ever
saw where they were handing those out.
Where they were handing them out.
They didn't have a booth number, a URL.
It has been all over my social media because I've talked about it again. I'll have 7 more ads when we get off now. It's a Kickstarter. There was no actual game yet. And at this point, I'm not sure they had a presence. I think they were guerrilla marketing.
Yeah, like
I think somebody was walking through the dealer hall handing out fans to people.
And I've seen that happen before, and I mean, GenCon certainly frowns on that because they're not making any money off of it.
It's fascinating.
But there was it was a cinema. I think it was, and it was even a more. I don't think it was like not safe for work, but a little more like cinema risque or something, some kind of card game like Cards Against Humanity or Apples to Apples. And they were just out in between the mini hall and the dealer hall, just kind of on the down low. Hey, would you like to check out our game? And I'm like, yeah, where's your booth and I can do a demo? And they're moving on to hand out another little sample pack of cards to somebody, and I was like, oh, very sly. So Battle for Hoth was one we got, and they sold their allotment out. We're coming. Looking forward to more about that, and so you'll hear more from us on that. What was our? Yeah, absolutely, flip it over, and let's move on to some of our other goodies we got there. And I mean, they had a bunch of demos out. I mean, they had a pretty good size booth at Asmodee, but the crazy thing was they had these are smaller minis on the game. They had some like huge sized ones, and I was like, oh, I want that version. And she's looking at me like, where are we going to store it? I'm like, details, whatever, craziness. But I was like, they had big size outs, not these little ones. And I was like, oh, let's go. I want that one.
For a con and a demo is really
very
a neat thing to do.
attention-getting.
Who had the cat castle stacking?
The Cat in a Box one.
Cat in a Box also had, it was like a 9-foot tall piece of their game where you stack these pieces together to make a giant tower and then stack the cats
that was the
on
tilted
it so
one. I'm thinking
over.
about Cat in a Box because they had the black cats in the boxes on the actual cat tree, and then on Sunday, all the cats had been replaced with like stuffed dogs, and I was like, what kind of crazy promotion's going on here? I mean, they had a pretty good line. Yeah, the other one where they had the tilting tower where you stack the cats kind of Jenga style.
Yes, Jenga style, and you stack the cats so you don't knock over the tower pieces. You keep adding to it. They had like a 9-foot tall tower that matched their game.
And it was very
really
eye-catching.
cool
It was really cool.
Yeah.
So that was cool. So that was Battle for Hoth. What else you got there in your stack that we were looking to check out? You want to show off, or maybe something that's sold out?
I have no idea.
All right. Well, let's go with some dice then.
Okay.
Now I'm not as big a dice goblin as I used to be. No, you got to get that out of the way first. Come on. We got to start with this one. So.
Hang on. Sorry.
So our friends at Gatekeeper Games had the Titan die. And I picked that up. We talked about that in our 3 favorite things, and it remains my favorite thing.
This die is
but
really
we
good.
also picked up, it's the Psionic Titan die, And the closest match they had were the psionic half-size dies. And I'll say, yeah, grab that 20-sider and stick it on top of the big Titan 20-sider.
Okay.
And I mean, it's dwarf next to it, and it's the closest color match they had. But it was crazy, and they had those, and then the other ones we picked up that they did sell out with. They had their 2 different GenCon exclusives, and they had the
I like their little
their little castles. They had Genevieve's scale, and those were they were a really kind of sparkle one with an inclusion in them, and those are the ones we picked out, and they sold those out by Saturday at like 1:30.
Yes.
I saw their newsletter posted on Saturday morning. We're going to sell out, and our little guy wanted their purple ones for their other set, and we went, and I mean it was 2:30 or so on Saturday by the time.
Like dragon eggs. They were purple with a little dragon egg in it.
Genevieve's eggs ones, and those were all gone when we got there after 2. And I'm like, and I mean all the dice booths were busy, and dice will remain hot probably as long as there's people playing games. But I was surprised they sold out so early. I mean, I knew they were going to sell out. I mean, they sold out of their Origins ones, but it was Sunday before they sold out of their commemorative Origins ones.
Right.
And so we went back and we bought some of their other dice for the little guy. But I mean, I'm glad we went there Thursday and picked up my Titan die and got our Genevieve GenCon exclusives. But yeah, those sold out really quick too.
I will remind folks, if you like the Titan die, they do have an entire set. So you can get this whole set
Yeah,
in
7
the
die
Titan
set
size.
in the Titan size, and they had a variety of different colors as well. They had a rainbow set, and I think they had 4 or 5 different color schemes. So those were again
Those
really
will be
cool
fun.
and had a must-have. One of these days, those will continue to be a centerpiece as long as we're talking about games. All right, what else you have? You want to move on, or you want to talk about this one? This one was one we talked about we want to check out, and they actually had.
This is one we talked about. I think we did pick this up on Thursday, to be honest.
Yes.
Because it was fun, and we talked to them about how to play it a little bit. It sounds like it plays really quick and easy. Please don't burn my village. Where you get to bribe the dragon with little gold coins, and
it's a competitive game against your fellow players, trying to not get your village burnt down. And I guess there is a cooperative chance, like, hey, village 1 and 2 can try to bribe the dragon and convince him to go burn down village number 3.
So you kind of match the card. You have to play suits and matches, and then collect, I'm going to call them victory points, where they're kind of at the end collective point to bribe your dragon. It doesn't take long to play, which are always my kind of favorites. It says 20 minutes.
And so after you play it a couple times, it probably legitimately takes about 20 minutes.
It does take longer as you're learning how to play it. It's another one. Often I'm on the lookout for a game that's 2 players or more, because often the little guy and I have more time to play than you do, and so sometimes it's easier for us to grab a game and play real quick, and 20 minutes is about as long as he wants to spend with his mom, and then he's done. Or I have to trade a Magic game.
You got to play a little Magic the Gathering.
I would like to go on record. Last time we played that, I beat him, and I just need that to be said again.
It's crazy when you know the rules and understand strategy. You played enough Risk with your brothers when you were growing up. So that was that one, and then there were a bunch of other cool deals. So we picked up a couple good things from Loke Battle Mats. I love their maps. They had a couple different new ones that I did not have, and this is in a slightly smaller size because they have some of the really big ones, but these are much more closer to your 8.5 by 11 standard kind of book size. Really like their stuff. Had some new takes, and as I'm thinking about running more Shadow Dark, everything's gridded, everything's wet dry erase, and it's not the wet erase. We're like, oh, it's tired, we're all going to go to bed, I'll come erase it tomorrow, and it artifacts like some of my older maps from other places, which is really nice because you can be lazy and say, oh, I'll come get to it later. And there's the second one,
Cells and Shrines.
Yeah, had some really different neat interior pieces. Got some that'll match up cool with that and be able to run little dungeons, and just for quick hits, or if you want to try to build something around it, works really good as well. And they also have clings that you can put on top of it that work great. And if the cling gets covered in cat fur, dirt, or whatever, you just run it under some water and
It
you're
would
good to
be
go. They
more
really
like
stick.
scatter? Would
Yeah,
be
like scatter, like a
furniture
treasure
pieces?
pile or furniture.
Fun.
So those are great. And then they also had new for this year.
I like that. Hang on, I like this size a lot. We
I
own
like
some
that.
of
So
the
we have
ones
some
that are
of the,
bigger.
I mean, they're
I don't know,
really
11 by
big.
14 or bigger size.
And it's a little unwieldy, certainly to put in your backpack, and even in the big black GM case, taking places. Ooh, I bet you there's some drow hiding in some of those shadows
That's
there.
really cool. Okay. Okay, sorry.
No, that's great. And then the other thing we picked up is they had 3 or 4 of these different decks. The one I really liked was the dungeon design deck. A bunch of different cards that had little dungeon pieces. If you want to flip over to the side there, you can kind of see or the back. Yeah, you can see they're little cards that are very similarly gridded to what the map is. And then they also had some encounters or treasures or different bits and pieces where, again, your players throw you a curve and you need to throw something out in there. You can just deal some of these out, and you have built-in encounters for when they go sideways, and you were hoping they go left or right or maybe even down, but now they went a different direction off into the sky, and it's like, oh, here you go. You can just have these very quickly, or you could even build a whole adventure or scenario out of them.
I like this. So there's like certain doors that'll do something special. There's enemy creators, a random loot. There's always that one player who's like, I'd like to loot the body of that guy. And we're like,
He's got some
He's got a
silver
dagger.
pieces and a rusty dagger. Is it magical? Well, you can burn a spell on it and try it. It's not, but knock yourself out. Yeah, all the crazy loot. So that one's fun. And the other great thing is the cards will stack on top of the book pieces too. So if you want to, especially if you have an open area or they also have some blank ones, you can build some pieces for that. And then thinking about that, the cool piece we got from Gaming Paper, as far as stacking it up.
Something, sorry.
It's okay. They had these polycarbonate grids that you could lay over, because they also make they started out, and years ago we have there's a picture of a little guy in his scissor stroller, and we have rolls of gaming paper, gridded, hexed, whatever maps. And then these are also, you can see the grid with little pinholes in them, but you lay these down and they interlock on top of that map, so you can draw on it, so you can reuse that one again, so you're not drawing directly on that one. And they're dry wet erase. Have a bunch of different options, and I mean we used it for a purpose that was not designed. We were playing Dropship Commander, and it has a big fold out paper map, and there were some places where it was buried, and the little guy's in process of building some of the minis, and they're not all based properly or balanced nice. So we laid the grids out just on some of those corners and flattened them out. Could still see all the measurements, could still see everything underneath it, and gave you a flat place to put your mini. So I thought that was a really cool new innovation, and will definitely go in my GM kit. I bought a couple packs of those.
Yes, they were, and kind of sidetracking, they were a great booth to work with and talk with, and you and the little guy spent a lot of time deciding which pieces of their product you wanted. They had a whole box set that they kind of called it a GM in a box.
Mm-hmm.
You could walk in and it had a dry wet erase. It had
initiative tracker.
It had dice. It had
like
tray.
4 dice trays that had wet dry erase in them, so you could give them out to new players that might not have dice if you're teaching the game or something. So it was a really neat kit. As interested as I was, I'm like, I have all this. And I have that infrastructure, but if you were new to teaching games or sharing a game with some of your uninitiated friends, it was all right there in the box, had all the pieces ready to go, and made it very turnkey to teach and run games for newer players and maybe less experienced GMs. Again, it was just all right there, and made it very, very seamless to do.
Their interaction was great though, because I give credit. These guys are all there the goal is to sell out of your stock and not have to take it home. So I know they're all there trying to sell their product, but they were so personable and really listened to, as you described your gameplay and as you described what you do and why you already have most of that set up, because you run a lot of con games. You didn't need to initiate a system to do that. But they were very agreeable and gracious in how they spoke to it, and very personable, and okay, that makes sense that you do that. So here's this other thing that we have that may fit into your style of how you said you play. And I really appreciated that. Their booth was also well laid out.
Well laid out. It was nice and open.
There was space to walk through and look at all their product. I didn't feel like we were standing on top of each other or other people. I'm going to call out Allplay a little bit. Allplay had a big booth, and they had, I don't know, 400 games they were showing.
I mean, they had this giant tower and all their little box games. And I'm like, it was overwhelming to me. I'm not easily overwhelmed.
But they had 8 or 10 demo gameplay tables that were so packed in, and
they were this close.
People were this close. I couldn't even see over shoulders to watch a gameplay to see if it was something I wanted, and that was disappointing. They had a game that I had wanted to look at and possibly purchase, and so I was disappointed that I couldn't even get in to look at the gameplay. So gaming paper on the flip side, fantastic layout at their booth, and the ability to walk in and talk to people and look at what we were doing and look at pieces was really, really well done.
Yeah, and I always loved their products, and we walked by them on Thursday, and they were busy, and by the time we got there Sunday, I'm like, it wasn't picked over, but you could tell they'd had a good show, and they echoed that as well. But yeah, it was nice not to get the hard sell and try to find something that they could sell that would meet a need that I had. So that was they were really great. I certainly always enjoy going and dealing with them and being one of their patrons.
Excellent. So I have another book here.
Oh,
nice stack.
Oh, Goodman Games. I have a they do the old adventures reimagined. They started with Return to the Borderlands. The Throwback to the Keep on the Borderlands was one. They have an Isle of Dread one. Tomb of the Elemental Evil one, and so they have the original module reprinted, and then they update it with 5e rules. They also have versions for Dungeon Crawl Classics, which is their fantasy game. They had half off, and I mean it's a $60 book, half off.
Wow.
And there was that 9-sized hole, and I was kind of flipping through it because I was not as familiar with this module. I mean, I was a lot of the others, and had either played them or run them. And so I'm flipping through it, and I'm like, is this something I really want, or is there just that 9 hole in my shelf there that I desperately want to fill as a completionist? And I read, and I think the third kind of introduction is they had the rebooted 5e module, is they had a bunch of different GMs and celebrities and game designers talking about it with Kelsey Dion, and she's like, this is my favorite adventure ever. And I'm like, sold, I'm good. Again, been really fired up for Shadow Dark lately. And I was like, okay, I'm like, that's good enough. It's her favorite. I'm like, I definitely am going to love it too then, because I love Shadow Dark. Yeah, I have. Speaking of Shadow Dark, and a great booth to go visit that we tried for days. Like, I think we went by their booth every day, and finally was able to shoulder my way up to the front on Sunday. And it was nice because they were neighbors with our friends at Wet Ink Games, and so we got to stop by and see them as the different people we know there and our friends there. Brandon and Sarah and Kyle, and so just the whole crew there was nice seeing that, and Matt. And then the little guy came after we went to TT Combat and picked up some stuff for Dropship Commander. We were waiting to transact commerce, and he's like, well, you're going to pay. I figured out what I need. I'm going to go over there and look at that. And he got because he saw they had some art, and he's also fascinated with raccoons now and scouting and the trash pandas. So he's like, oh, they had that, and that was one of their any nominated games. For the trash can edition of that. So unfortunately they didn't win, but it's just an honor to be nominated. They have won in the past, so they're any winners. But finally managed to shoulder my way up and wanted to pick up the Cursed Scroll. I foolishly didn't do it at Origins, and so I managed to get in there and pick up the 3 editions of the Cursed Scroll, which are not quite adventure modules, not quite source books. They're a little bit of everything. They have some new tables. They have some new classes. The number 3 it's almost I want to call it a Viking one. They have these Norse kind of northern raiders that are seafaring, and my buddy Rich and I are working on a seafaring game for Origins that you'll certainly hear more about. And I told the guy working at the booth, he's part of the Lurking Fears gaming club, told him about it a little bit, and he pulls his phone and he's like, where can I go buy this module? And I was like, it's one my friend and I are writing for Origins. He goes, well, we have this great, license. And I'm like, I get the license that the Shadow Dark has and the Arcane Library to publish, fan content and all that. And he's like, well, when's it going to be out? And I'm like, it's not. If you want to play it, you need to come to Origins next year, and we're probably going to do it on Friday or Saturday. And he's like, so you're not going to publish it? I'm like, it's an Origins scenario that my friend and I did. Kind of, the idea came as a joke. And I was like, okay, that's great. But yeah, the third Cursed Scroll had a bunch of nautical stuff on, so I'm like, okay, that will definitely fill in there. But it was great to talk to them and go see them. They're a great group. And my buddies from Louisville at Lurking Fears kind of turned me on to Shadow Dark, as well as some folks in our gaming club. So looking forward to you'll be hearing more about Shadow Dark on our cast and some games we're going to run there. But it was cool to go and talk to them and finally make it up. And it was great to see how busy their booth was as well.
They were incredibly busy. I was grateful to have our friends next to it because I could tuck a little bit into their booth while I waited for you to finish transacting with them, which was nice then because, again, it was a narrower aisle.
They were out in the entrepreneur kind of section.
So busy that both of us standing there waiting would have been more disruptive. So I was grateful to be able to kind of tuck away a little bit. Also gave me an opportunity to talk with someone else in their booth who, the great things about some of the entrepreneur alley ones are friends come and just help you out. And that's who she was. She was just a friend of theirs, had never been to a con before, and was doing a great job at not actually being overwhelmed by the number of people that are at GenCon and how busy they had been. It was great to talk with her some too.
Yeah, it was cool. And again, they did a great job. They were very engaging, very friendly, and just a cool bit. And we didn't even try to go by when Kelsey was there on Saturday. I'm like, as cool as it would be, like, I love your game. You do great stuff. I've been a fan of the Arcane Library for a long time. Did their Kickstarters way back in the day, probably before Shadow Dark was even a thought of thing, much less a really awesome published book in the OSR kind of frame. But I was like, nope, don't even want to go there because it's just going to be nuts. Everybody wanting to get in there, and I'll let everybody else go deal with that, and hopefully the ones that are standing in line will go look at our friends at Wedding Games and go buy all their goodies as well.
That's right. Everybody will share in that some. So I think we have one last piece that we picked up here. Another game we talked about.
Yep, from Czech Games Edition, and we stopped by and tried to check it out, and they had a crazy good deal because I think we saw the expansion for Galaxy Trucker Do What, and I was like, oh, this sounds fun. It's the second expansion for the main Galaxy Trucker game, and so we're looking forward to checking that one. Again, a quicker 30-minute kind of 2 to 4 player, 8+. I'm like, oh, well, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to play this, so I'm in. Let's go.
I feel like we had a Galaxy theme going for a little while. As I look back at our list, there were a couple of Galaxy and space related games. I know Wandering Galaxy was another one we had really looked at, and it turned out it had an app component where you were to play the board game with the app that would do similar to video game cutscenes to it, and that just isn't our jam.
Right, and
so
was
kind of easy to pass
certainly for the way we play. I'm like, I would love for people to especially sitting at our table or playing games with us. I want you to put your phone down and fellowship and enjoy what's going on and be in the moment. I don't want everybody constantly looking at their phone. Or there was the other one we looked at that had canned narration, that when you got to certain points you pushed a button on the app and the app played some music or a cutscene or something. I was like, why don't you just play on a virtual tabletop and have all that cooked in? And so it was a weird gap in between. The game system world, certainly the world sounded very interesting to me, and I saw the whole app narration component, and I was like, that's just one more thing to do. And I'm like, I kind of lost me right there. So that was a little disappointing. But Galaxy Trucker looks like a lot of fun, so we're looking forward to cracking that one open and playing that on our table.
I agree.
So any other goodies you wanted to share? Okay. So, as far as trends and hello, Mo, welcome back to the show.
Hello.
Trends, things we noticed, things that stood out to you. Anything in particular as we start working to wrap up our big Gen Con review shit?
There were things I thought Gen Con / ICC did well this year, and there were things I could see improvements on. So one of the things I thought they did really well was managing the will call line.
The guys they had assigned to that were managing the lines, especially across the main draw. Hello, Mo. They were the whole weekend. It was the same couple guys managing that big gap there, and they would stop the flow coming through the main hallway, heading down toward the dealer hall or out into the front part of the convention center, and let the next group move up through the will call line. They were enthusiastic. They were happy. They were having a good time. They're fist bumping people, and just they had a great vibe. And they were just guys that were working at the for the ICC and managing that line. But man, they got into it. And oh my gosh, I want to get to my thing. I don't care because they're vibing and they're having a good time. They're dancing around. And again,
did a great job keeping the line moving. Right. Did a great job leaving space so you could cut across the hallways when it was really jam-packed and those lines were really long. They did a great job. And you're right, they were just enthusiastic and happy to be there the whole day.
I am not that happy all the time at work.
No.
And I mean, they were working and they had a tough job. I mean,
they did.
The will call line, there are not too many people by the time they've been in that will call line that long that are still super happy to be in that long line. Because the little guy waited in there to pick up his tickets when it was crazy on Thursday to get into his game.
And I will say, if you've been to the ICC before, will call is at the easternmost side of the convention center. All the way across the convention center, past every ballroom and room and the concessions, and on out the west door.
Yeah, out toward there's a minor league stadium out there.
He was outside when he got in line. But again, did a really nice job. I thought the merch line, they both had an end of the line sign.
Yeah, they had the big standard.
Which people kind of just passed along. Oh, you're standing behind me now. You're now in charge of the end of the line
Yeah,
standard.
That was how it was. Was that Friday? No, it was Saturday when we were in that one.
It was Friday.
Yeah, it was Friday.
Because we went early.
Okay. And we went really early. And like I got to hold the standard because they didn't have a ICC employee at that point. So I was like, oh well, what kind of bonuses do you get? So that was kind of cool to hold that for just a moment, and the line then continued and got bigger on beyond that.
Now, on the flip side, talking about crowd management, Gen Con. I am.
Hear her plea.
Please hear my plea. This is the second year that we've run into an issue as a family. I don't know. Is fraudulent badges a big thing?
I
a big
see it
deal?
For badges, but for event tickets?
Okay, so I already have our badges.
We got those shipped. We were on the ball.
Last
and
year
we have been because the year
problem.
we went into that, I'm like, nope, never again. We're going to get before the ship deadline.
Right? You dropped us off. I showed up with a printed copy of the receipt, your ID, got in the line. You went to park the car. They wouldn't let me have your badge because you were physically not there.
Like, yes, she stole my ID and the receipt. Oh, and by the way, we have the same last name
Fine.
and the same address on our IDs.
So this year, we had them shipped early. We were ready. We reminded ourselves multiple times where we'd put them.
Don't leave your badge at home.
Don't leave your badge at home.
Because they will happily sell you a new one. You will unhappily have to purchase a new one because that's just the way it goes.
If there's space. I don't know what happens when the day's sold out. Can you buy a replacement badge?
I feel like from everything I heard, they were glad to resell you one even for the sold out portion because you'd already bought one. I'm like, okay.
Which kind of makes sense to me.
Like I get it, so it's counted, so you're not doubling up the number, but whew, that's some expense.
So we then also purchased tickets for certain events, which we did have to go to Will Call to pick up. So we were managing our time a little bit. That's how we all ended up split up to go pick up our tickets for Will Call. Needed the name under which the badges were purchased, and an ID for the person who was picking up the ticket, and an email address for the ticket.
Even though they're all encoded to that badge number, because I bought tickets for Diane and for the little guy as well. I'm like, okay, so I bought them, but then gave them to him because like I didn't do his events. He did some of the seminars with us, so those were all the same, and those were all free as I recall. And his events were purchased, and I mean the one that was the Kill Team one was expensive, but I get it, laser guns aren't cheap, and all that whole setup wasn't.
So for crowd control purposes,
right,
you have purchased something.
Mm-hmm.
Under all three names,
right.
You paid for it, you have the only receipt, you have the connection to GenCon. All three of us had to stand in line.
The only thing I can figure is they are trying to teach us buy it before the ship deadline.
We then ran into a second problem because, I don't know, apparently I didn't accept the invite to verify my email address.
Yeah, you had a really old, dead email account, and so I had to create you another years ago. I mean, this has been years ago. You have a second GenCon account, but guest doesn't have your current email on it. When I invited you to it, didn't accept it. She doesn't check her email. Email me. It'll be fine.
So now I'm standing there. I've waited in line. I'm standing at the ticket. I have a receipt. I have my ID, and he's holding the envelope and says, I can't give it to you till I get my manager to look at this because there's no email address.
Forget that it's coded to your badge.
Which I'm wearing.
Right. Because you have to be to get in the ICC. Kind of.
So, something is off with maybe not badges, but tickets to events seems off to require this level of accountability. I watched it as we were waiting to get into one of our seminars, another event was going on across the hall. If, for example, you and I had both showed up, it was an e-ticket, and she needed to know which badge had been purchased first to scan that badge for the e-ticket before she scanned the second badge for an e-ticket.
Yeah, that just blows my mind.
There's something off in the ticketing system.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
I know our little guy gets frustrated. He's like, either do paper or do e-tickets. The back and forth on the two makes him kind of crazy.
Because he had a couple paper tickets and he had a couple e-tickets, and it was like... And like, I from event organizing and running events, I appreciate having a paper ticket. Now, you don't want to lose them, but if you're going to run an event, hopefully you're a responsible-ish adult, and like you can have your tickets to count those up and turn them in, and felt like it's a little bit of a hassle,
right.
But like at Origins, I'm getting a badge out of it, so I don't mind doing that little bit of paperwork. And Origins, while nowhere near, that's not true, while not as big as GenCon, my gaming group, my buddy was running his games, and he needed his badge because we had games like right away, and the lines were crazy. So we went into our room and ran our events without our badge. Don't tell Gamma. And then I was like, oh, I had a break. My game was done, and his was still going on. I was like, I'm going to get my badge. Do you want me to get yours? He's like, yeah, here's my ID. And I went down in there, and I think it was like the email had the barcode and scanned it in. They're like, they gave me my badge and his badge, and I was like, the line had gone down much later in Thursday, and that was kind of why we timed it that way. No, it was on Wednesday because it's the best 5 days in gaming at Origins. But like that was no hassle. We didn't have any event tickets because we were running events all weekend.
Again, if I have the information that the purchase is tied to, why do I physically, like, you're not TSA.
You'd think.
Why do I need the physical person also there? I don't understand.
And that's, additional
if there's an
people in the
explanation, someone comment and let me know what the explanation is. I will feel better with an explanation.
All right, rant over.
Okay, sorry.
Other good things, other trends you noticed, other things that you found interesting. I certainly think the thing that I noticed in the last few years, certainly, I think it was a thing pre-COVID, and then after that, like the pin bazaar and pin trading was insanely popular, and it seemed like everybody was doing it. Every booth had pin bazaar pins, and they were the exclusives. And I mean, I think some of the Gen Con staff, had them, and you could trade for them and show them this or that, and that was like the pin bazaar and pin trading was the end all be all.
It's very Disney-esque, to be very honest. Disney does this with the pins and the pin trading, and so it did feel very Disney-esque about it. Some great backpacks and bags that display all the pins. I've enjoyed those.
That's what I've got a pin or two I've worn. Usually they were buttons I wore over the years. I got my Black Hands button game, so but pin trading, there were still a lot of booths that had them. There were still a lot of people displaying pins. I think the little guy got one from Hot Box Pizza that was a couple years old. It was like a discount, and he was all excited about that. Island Noodles, I'm sure they probably have a whole slew of. I just never wait in line to see them.
Noodles need gosh, Island Noodles doesn't need a pin. Everyone waits in line for them anyhow.
Know about them. So. We don't even need Island Noodles when we're talking about it. But it seemed like that was on the decline or not as big a deal. But the thing that used to be a big deal, I mean, I'm thinking 20 years ago, when Gen Con first came to Indy, and there's,
when they
5 years after that.
Mini tables that they were playing war games on.
Right. And there were still the sand tables and all that. Ribbons were used to be a big deal, and like everybody had ribbons, and every booth had one, and there were, different ones you could get to promote this or that and everything. And ribbons never really went away. I know fans of Gen Con always had one, and there were a few, but you didn't see people with more than a couple ribbons. I know at Origins I used to buy the War College one and go to a couple of their seminars because they had a different, back in the day, had a different thing you could buy the ribbon and like go in and play any of the games that had open spots or whatever, and so it was great.
I do feel in the last couple of years, fans of Gen Con have one. If you played in a tournament, there seemed to be one. They were very limited amount of ribbons in the last couple of years.
It was, again, it never really went away, but it wasn't a big deal. And this year, it was like back with a vengeance, and people are they're carrying their double loop ones, and they're and there were
hanging
a bunch
it over
of people
the balcony in order to take a photo
almost touching
of
the
it.
floor,
Yes.
and lots of people had them down to their knees or whatever, and there were tons. And I mean, there were a few people that just had like the crazy double rolls, or like you need your ribbon bearer to keep your ribbon off the floor. And I was like, when did ribbons all of a sudden come back like a vengeance? It was this year, because they had not been a big deal again for years.
And it was interesting because you talked about booths that had pins. I did not see a lot of booths with the ribbons.
And I think that was more in some of those ballrooms.
In the ballrooms, I saw the ribbons a lot. Yes.
Because then I think the ribbon I got last year, I had a Fans of Gen Con one, and like Gooey Cube had one. I bought some stuff from Gooey Cube, and they had a ribbon. I was like, oh, I like their stuff. I'll happily display their ribbon. But they're just, again, it's not been a huge deal at Gen Con. I mean, I remember they used to have the Catan ones, and you could get all the 4 main pieces, and they were trading. I mean, Cheese Weasel had one. There were people with big question marks walking around, and you could, like, they'd ask you a trivia question, you could get one. But there were all kinds of ribbons, again, 15, 20 years ago, and that just seemed to have died off. And man, it was back with a vengeance. I was taken aback by it.
And I think I saw ribbons worn more by a younger generation. Which also surprised me. And you think it would harken back nostalgically, we would be the group going to get ribbons, but this was a much younger crowd that were wearing ribbons.
And there were a lot of young people that had down in Asia, and there were a few more seasoned people, not quite seasoned as us, but I'm like, whatever you have to do for all those ribbons, that's more work than I want to do. Like, I mean, they had the double roll, and like it was just this thing was probably 20 feet long. I'm like, good night. How many places did you have to go and be like, I'll play your demo for a ribbon?
Yeah.
No thanks. So yeah, that seemed to be one of the big trends. We kind of talked about the vibe and the spread of things. Is there anything you're bummed you're like, oh, I really wanted to do this and missed out on doing it?
I'm pausing because a couple days have gone by since we got home, and so things that I was bummed on the way home, I may no longer be bummed about.
I don't care.
I really appreciate this year. There was a product in a booth. I was like, oh, I don't know whether I really want it or I don't want it. I'm kind of tired. It's Sunday afternoon. Our time's getting really late. A small recognition that I would go home and really regret I had not gotten it is what would happen. And you did a great job in saying, let's just go back to the booth and let's look at it and and we looked at it and examined it and I was like, oh yeah, this doesn't do the things I wanted or needed it to do, so I'm not getting it. And I could go home very peacefully and not have regretted that I didn't get something.
That was like 3:45 on Sunday when they're like, attention Gen Con attendees, it's about time to GTFO.
I don't know, was there something that I really... Have I talked about it?
I don't know there was anything you felt you were... you got to see our friends from Monster.
I did.
You crossed paths with them, and I know they had at least one, if not two, different events. And then our friend Calvin from Tales of Vicious Mockery, you got to actually talk to him, and they had a couple different events in around, and like our schedules and like cross and like getting the little guy places, like it never really worked out, and that was kind of a bummer.
And that's kind of a new thing for us. So all of the above are comedians who do some live action play. And we've really enjoyed, they've come to local comedy clubs. We've been able to go to several of those and meet with them and talk with them. It's been a fun, different thing to do and a different aspect to gaming. So it was really neat of 72,000 people to run into 3 random people I knew.
Her, not me. I'm like, she's like, really by the way, I saw. I'm like, where are they? Oh, they're already gone. I'm like, oh.
Was a really neat thing to have happen. And I did really enjoy that. We did not make the comedy panel they were on. They had comedy shows in Indianapolis and at a venue in town. We didn't make it to. But yes, that was really neat to get to run into them and to know that they were enjoying the fun of a con as well. Was neat.
Yeah, and that was my only like real disappointment. Yeah, I wanted to see more. I wanted to go back to Lucas Oil a couple times and like really spend some time in there and see all the things that were going on there. Like we spent Sunday morning, we got there early and went through the mini and tabletop halls B, C, and D. We'll have some video of that coming to see some of the really cool miniatures. There was a really cool setup for one of the game companies that had, there was a card game, I believe, and they were playing head-to-head, and you can go watch it. It was a really cool setup. That was neat. So we'll have that video coming out.
Their streaming setup.
Their streaming setup. It was really cool. He's like, I built that myself, and I'm like, well, good, because I couldn't afford to go buy it. But I was like, wow, it was really cool, and it seemed portable-esque. Cincinnati Arsenal has their big giant Warhammer 40K ship that they roll out, and was cool. So yeah, a bunch of cool video on that, but like that was on Sunday, and so much of it is packed up and moved on. People are heading out or have had their tournaments or whatever for their big tabletop displays. So I was bummed didn't get in there sooner to see that.
I did realize one of the things I was kind of bummed about. We were looking at old photos last night, and we've talked before, I think our little guy went in costume one year, and so we were looking at some of those photos, and he's got the full body velcroed on Batman and Superman and all the muscles, and having his photo taken with lots of other characters. In several years ago, they've designated a spot.
They've got it kind of in between the stage and the big balloon art.
And really a much bigger push on cosplayers love for you to talk to them and ask them about their costumes. They do not love for you to just reach out and touch them.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Nobody likes that.
Nobody likes that. And a lot of these folks have spent tremendous amounts of time and money on the costume they've made. I never saw a large group of people in that section. I don't feel like I passed a lot of people in costume. Even on Saturday for the costume contest. So certainly on Saturday you see a lot more people in costume because the contest is taking place that day. But people will wear costumes all 4 days typically.
And sometimes they'll wear a different one every day.
I didn't feel like there were a lot of costumes. I didn't feel like the booths had a lot of people in costumes, which I've seen in the past. It just didn't feel like a thing this year. And I do feel like that's missing some.
Yeah, they're just, and I don't know, and I can't imagine for as much time as we spent in the dealer hall that we missed that many. Again, we didn't really get out to where the main stage was, and I'm like, did we cross through that as much? I don't know. I don't feel like we missed that. I feel like there was a smaller presence of cosplayers this year. And I mean, some of the ones we saw were incredible, but
In
just
years
didn't
past,
feel like
you
there
could
were as
pass
many.
big groups of Vampire the Masquerade folks.
Right.
Right, which took me forever to figure out what they were. I still don't know what the big mushroom one is. With the big red mushroom hats. There were
Yeah, I don't know
several
what
of
that one
those, but again, it just was not.
Yeah, it just didn't seem
As
like
big a deal.
there were as many this year. Certainly wandering around the dealer hall, and certainly on Saturday again, we packed up Saturday outside the dealer hall and did a lot of seminars and had a lot of other things going on, so that we were not in that crush. So maybe we missed some of it there, but it just, the other days certainly didn't seem like as much, and didn't see as many again where we were on Saturday.
If I'd known Hoth was going to be the big hot game, we have dressed as Hoth Star Wars for Halloween before. We could have gone in costume.
The little guy was so disappointed you didn't want to dress as Beach Leia.
Not dress as Beach Leia.
I'm like, Beach Leia, what are you talking about? Like,
Leia.
oh, Beach Leia. I was like, I'm on board. Let's go. Oh, so, all right. In every life, a little rain must fall.
He always had a wonderful view of his mother, which is much higher than his mother's confidence.
Katy
about
Perry
it, but...
album cover. Ooh, mama. I'm like, yeah, buddy, good eye. So anyway, moving along. Things we were bummed we missed. Beach Leia, huh? Anything that was announced that you're excited about that is it's coming out?
I don't remember a lot of announcements.
There were a good amount of announcements, and again, I haven't gone through all the D&D ones, and again, I'm not terribly excited for D&D 5e 2024 or whatever iteration they're calling it.
I'm not overly, like, we don't watch Critical Role, so I don't have an opinion on.
Oh no, Matt Mercer stepping down as forever DM. Good for him. Play some. We'll see how that goes. I mean, the other guy, he's not Matt Mercer, but he's no slouch. I mean, he's a quality DM, and should run a good game. Should be interesting. But I was like, okay.
Did enjoy talking through and hearing more about the tabletop RPG Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles coming out. That was really exciting. They had sample books out. They're waiting on finalization, but the sample books look amazing. They harken back to the original RPG.
The comic, not the crazy cartoon.
The comic.
Yeah. Eastman and Laird were very involved. Lots of other like famous celebrity-esque comic book artists. Mm-hmm. Freddie Williams did a piece. Just everybody who was anybody. I mean, they kept naming all these people off like, oh, I want to do a piece for the book. And it's like, I mean, the book's I'm looking forward to it just from an art perspective and that old gritty original Ninja Turtles kind of style.
It was really surprising to me and impressive to listen to the litany of stars and executives and movie writers and just this litany of people who had a start playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Mm-hmm. And that was an intro and one of an early RPG that got them then interested in careers they went on to do. And their excitement then that it's coming back. And I think I talked with several people. It's exciting to be of an age where we're no longer saving mowing and babysitting money, but having some discretionary funds that you can go spend on things that were really cool in your childhood and see those come back. And Ninja Turtles is certainly one of those, but having an appreciation for the level of art that's in it and the differences from, I grew up on the cartoon and the really awful movie from the 90s.
Oh, it wasn't awful.
It was what it was. It just was not.
In 1990, it was, awesome. But yeah, it certainly wasn't that. And I think people that were fans of the comic were always disappointed how kiddified the cartoon and the movie made it. And the other thing about it is I'm always surprised when you ask somebody, like, what was your first role-playing game? so many people, certainly of our age, say D&D, but their second one is Ninja Turtles. And I'm like, you hadn't played Dungeons and Dragons before? They're like, no, I like got my intro to Ninja Turtles, and I was like, oh, cool. So that was
that announcement was really neat.
That's looking forward to seeing those that Kickstarter fulfill from Palladium. Yep. The other thing that they announced, they will is coming out is for Beyond the Supernatural 2, Tome Grotesque and Arcanum, that have been long awaited. There were a number of fans, including myself, that were like, yay, looking forward to it. I wasn't disappointed it got shelved. Like, I get it from a business perspective, but looking forward to completing that second edition and having more options there, because I just love that game.
You do love Beyond the Supernatural.
Is really fun to run, kind of a mystery horror type, just different than your typical hack and slash games. Certainly people at my table like to play. The other cool thing was the announcement from Renegade Studios. They had a couple. The big one is that they're going to have a Dungeon Crawler Carl RPG and the tease of some other products. So I don't know what else they have in store, but I'm like, oh, a Dungeon Crawler Carl RPG, I'm in.
I had no idea that Dungeon Crawler Carl would be quite as cool as it really has turned out to be. So I know you've read several of the books. I heard someone talking about listening to the audiobook while we were wandering through GenCon. One of the authors I purchased from was talking about the audiobook as well. They're coming out with a graphic novel version of it, and then a tabletop.
An RPG.
That's
it's
really
awesome.
Exciting.
So the other cool piece,
I'll play that one. That one was fun.
And we got to see
Donut.
You can absolutely be Donut, Princess Donut. The other one from Renegade Studios, and they actually had some of the sample models, was G.I. Joe HeroScape. And I have their RPG and the minis they had for that, and so never played HeroScape, but I certainly looked at it for a long time. Did not pull the trigger, but certainly looked at that. And
we did end up past that booth several times.
We wandered through, and they were close to our friends at Palladium, so it was easy to pop back over there. And I showed the little guy HeroScape, and he's like, "Why haven't you bought it yet?" I'm like, "Because you like to eat." Enough said. But they had so we looked at that. But the minis they had for G.I. Joe HeroScape, I'm like, let's go. And I know right now they're crowdfunding G.I. Joe Risk, and I've enjoyed G.I. Joe Axis and Allies, and even ran that at Origin, so that was a lot of fun. But really looking forward to Risk when their Kickstarter fulfills, and G.I. Joe HeroScape when that finally releases, and we'll see how far down the HeroScape rabbit hole I go with that.
I think listening to you just now, I realized I like Risk more than I like Axis and Allies, and I'm not sure I realized that, or I'm about to be horribly embarrassed that I didn't realize they were two different games until you said it this time. But this would explain why I didn't like playing
Axis and Allies.
Axis and Allies
is certainly a more involved war game, and Risk has war game elements to it, but is certainly more of a family game of world domination. I mean, I know your family, certainly your brothers. I mean, it seemed like there was always, a long-running Risk game that was out. Like, you can play for 30 minutes and then walk away. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
I think I've learned my mom was competitive but doesn't like conflict. So we would often, Monopoly would go on for a week at my house because she would set the timer for 30 minutes and we would all sit down and play for 30 minutes. And then you just leave the pieces where they are, get up and go do homework and
They
chores.
didn't have cats.
We did not have cats that would knock things over.
Definitely one of those cool new board gaming tables where you can put the top over it to maintain that. That was my option when Monopoly or Risk came out at my house. You either played till it was done, played till it was disrupted by a cat, which our cats were. My mom was much funnier about cats being on the table. I'm like, cats are going to do what they want. They're much like women. Didn't Oscar Wilde say that? Cats and women will do as they please.
I'm not sure Oscar Wilde is who we should be quoting things about women on.
Dogs and men should get used to it. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, when Monopoly or Risk came out at our house, it was you played it until somebody dominated the world or had all the money in the hotels. My mom, because she played full contact Monopoly and Scrabble.
She plays full contact Scrabble. That was really
She didn't
hard.
care for Risk, but my dad, and my brother and I would play Risk, and so always enjoyed that. But yeah, looking forward to those as well fun. There. So those were some of the things that certainly we're interested in that were announced. There were a lot of announcements. There were a bunch of other cool properties coming out. So if you saw some of the announcements from GenCon, leave us a comment. What are you excited about? What are we missing out? We should check out. Certainly, if you're excited for Dungeon Crawler Carl, definitely let us know about your Princess Donut desires to play in the RPG or see in the graphic novel, or what else. We still have our foodie review of GenCon to go,
okay.
And we've got a ton of a video of the dealer hall. We've got some card holla to talk about, some of the miniatures from the painting contest that just absolutely were cool. So we'll have some of that content coming out for you as well. But let us know if you went to Gen Con. Let us know what you thought the vibe was, what we're missing, if we're right, wrong, or indifferent, and if there was something at Gen Con you didn't get to go that you want to hear about that we might have come across. Would be glad to talk about and share those experiences. So for Fellowship of Geeks, I'm Jim.
I'm Diane.
We will talk to you all soon.